Did you know there are 30 million evangelical Christians in the United States of America that do not even vote? We are a million voices, and our heart is to change that.
And joining us actually from the Lone Star State today is Abby Johnson from the state of Texas. Abby, thanks so much for joining us.
Of course. I'm so glad to be here with you all.
Well, most people are going to know you from the movie Unplanned, which, Abby, gosh, thank you. What a story. What a beautiful story. But just in case people haven't seen it, some of our viewers, could you kind of give us a testimony? What's your story?
Sure. So I worked at Planned Parenthood for 8 years of my life. I was a clinic director. Of course, Planned Parenthood is our country's largest abortion provider. They provide abortions through 6 months of pregnancy in most states across this nation. They perform a third of the abortions in the United States. And I was a clinic director for one of their facilities in the Houston affiliate, which is the third largest affiliate in the country. I was there for 8 years. I believe that I was there helping women, doing the right thing for women. I believe that I was there to keep abortion safe, legal, and rare. That's what we heard from everyone in the media. That's what President said. That's what the talking points were, right? And I was shocked when I was called one day into the actual procedure room to assist in an abortion procedure that was done via ultrasound. Ultrasounds are not typically used during the abortion procedures. Abortions are generally done in a blind sort of manner. The doctor takes a suction tube and blindly inserts it into a woman's uterus and just pokes around in her uterus until he thinks he has enough blood and tissue in a glass jar. But we had a visiting physician come in, and he wanted to show us what happens inside of the uterus during an abortion procedure. And he needed my assistance so that I could hold the ultrasound probe on the woman's abdomen during the abortion procedure. And we did the ultrasound. We found that the baby was just over 13 weeks along. Everything is fully formed in the womb by 12 weeks gestation. Arms, legs, fingers, toes. Heart has been beating since 18 days after conception. Every internal organ that we sit here with today is fully formed on a baby at 12 weeks gestation. And this baby was over 13 weeks. And I sat watching in horror as this 13-week-old baby fought and struggled for his life against the abortion instruments. And I knew then that there was humanity in the womb, that there was life in the womb. I knew that I had been lied to by Planned Parenthood, but I wasn't a victim. I mean, I had eagerly believed the lies. And because of that, in turn, I had lied to thousands of women who had come into those clinic doors. And I knew that if there was life, I knew that if there was humanity in the womb, that I was on the wrong side of this debate. And I ended up leaving Planned Parenthood. I left the abortion industry, knew I could never participate in abortion again. And I began speaking out. I began talking about abortion. I began exposing the abortion industry for what they are. But I also recognize that since abortion has become legal, since 1973, we have on record killed over 60 million babies by abortion in the United States. And while, of course, the unborn are the primary victims of abortion, I recognize that there are secondary victims of abortion, and those are the women and the men who have bought the lie of the abortion industry. And so really, while my goal was to expose the abortion industry and to really do damage to Planned Parenthood, I had a secondary goal in mind, and that was to bring about healing to those who have been wounded by abortion. And so that has really become a part of my heart and something that I want to do, because I realize that there are so many walking wounded among us, so many women and men who are carrying around that burden. And they're carrying it around in silence, feeling like they can't share, feeling like they can't shake this burden, this sin, and they are particularly in our churches. And and so that's really become my heart and really a part of my ministry.
Well, so
Thank you.
I would love to hear more about that here in just a second. But one of the things I noticed about your life and in your story is that immediately you started getting politically active and started using your voice. Tell us about some of the things that you did when you started using your voice.
Yeah, I did pretty much immediately become active in the pro-life legislative movement. I knew that I had information that could shut down abortion clinics almost immediately, and so because I know how they operate. I knew how they operated better than anyone else in the pro-life movement because I had just left there. And so I wanted to use that intel, right? I wanted to give that to the pro-life movement. And so I went to these pro-life legislative groups and I said, hey, I've got all this information. I want to give it to you. I want to shut down these clinics. This is one of my goals. And so I had given them this one particular group in Texas, Texas Alliance for Life. I'd given them 5 pieces of legislation. I said, if you pass these 5 pieces of legislation, you will shut down more than half of the abortion facilities in Texas. Wow. And they said, are you sure? And I said, try it. And so we only meet every other year in Texas. Our legislature only meets every other year in Texas, which, by the way, is fantastic. And I always say, if Texas can get everything that we need to get done every other year, every other state should be able to do it. So in 4 years, they got all 5 pieces of these legislative issues passed, and over half of our abortion facilities closed in the state of Texas, reducing our abortion rate in the state of Texas by over 30%.
That's
so
incredible.
You know, when you close abortion clinics, it equates to lives being saved. I mean, that's just the bottom line.
Yeah. Because
you give women more time. If abortion is not around the corner, available for every single woman, every time they hold up that positive pregnancy test, they can just go right around the corner and have an abortion. If they have more time to think about their choices, if they actually have more time to think about that baby growing inside of them, they have more time to bond with that baby growing inside of them, they won't automatically go the abortion route, right? Wow.
Yeah.
So legislation is incredibly important. So I always tell people our ultimate goal, because people say, well, Abby, why is legislation so important? Well, this is why. Our ultimate goal in the pro-life movement is not just to make abortion illegal. Our ultimate goal is to make abortion unthinkable. Okay?
Yeah, that's really good.
But in order to make abortion unthinkable, we must first make it illegal. That is one of the steps in the process to making it unthinkable, because law and morality often go hand in hand. Yeah. There were many women who came to my facility who said, I've always thought abortion is wrong, but it's legal, so it must not be that bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's a great point.
So oftentimes law dictates morality and vice versa.
Vice versa.
Wow.
So we have to work on both fronts. We have to work, Christians must work in the political process to work on moral, just law, and that's biblical. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That we must work on moral, just law because God is just, right? We can't just say, well, just, let the culture go as it is. No, culture is often dictated by just law. And so that's why it's important for us to be involved in the political process. And people say, yeah, but there's so many other issues, Abby. There's so many other issues. Listen, all of those other issues, while important, they are actually secondary if you don't have the fundamental right to life.
Yeah.
If you don't have the right to live, then school choice really doesn't matter, right?
It's true. It's true.
If our children are being killed in the womb, then we don't even have children to send to school, right?
Yeah.
We care about the economy, sure. But if we hadn't killed 60 million taxpayers by abortion, maybe we wouldn't be in economic crisis. See, without the fundamental right to life, every other issue is secondary. So when Christians go to the voting booth, we must first and foremost vote on that fundamental right to life first.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. So did you just say this is a non-negotiable? There are other things you can look at from different perspectives, not this one.
Not this one. This is non-negotiable. People say, oh, Abby, I can't believe you're a single issue voter. I am proudly a single issue voter. This is it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is it for me. I mean, it's not about, honestly, it's not about Republican or Democrat for me. It is about life.
Thanks.
Who on that ticket defends the unborn in the womb?
Yeah.
That's an appropriate question.
That's the question, huh?
It is.
That's it. Whoever defends the unborn in the womb, that's who I vote for.
Yeah.
I don't care about their I don't care about their personality.
Yeah.
I don't care about what they say on Twitter. I don't care if I like them. I don't care if I like their wife. I don't care about anything else. I'm not voting for a pastor. Do they defend life in the womb from abortion? Yes or no? If it's yes, I vote for them. Period.
Well, and somebody with your background, all of us should be thinking that way, but when somebody's seen the things that you've seen, Abby, it's appropriate. So thank you very much. I appreciate your courage. Has the church been helpful in this fight?
Not enough.
Okay. Talk to us about that.
Yeah.
What could the church be doing?
I mean, the church is pretty much silent on the issue of abortion. There was a very famous abortion doctor, Dr. Bernard Nathanson. Some of your viewers may be familiar with him, but he was actually the co-founder of an organization called NARAL, and that was founded back in the 70s. My kids just came home, so you're going to hear a lot of chatter in the background.
Welcome to
Welcome to life.
Yeah, there's a lot of life going on over here.
You got some signs of
my
life.
Office doors. I have 8 kids, so it can get loud.
Oh, how fun!
Yeah, we're pro-life and we mean it. So, Dr. Bernard Nathanson was one of the co-founders of NARAL, which is a pro-life, pro-choice activist group. And when they founded it in the 70s, he said, now he later had a conversion on the issue. He aborted over 75,000 babies during his lifetime. He had a conversion in the 80s. He even aborted one of his own children. He had a conversion in the 80s, and he put out the documentary called The Silent Scream.
Yes.
And you can find it on YouTube. It was very powerful during that time. It was really when ultrasound technology was becoming more widely available. And that documentary, Silent Scream, actually converted dozens of doctors who were performing abortions, because it was the first time they were able to see a child in the womb during an abortion. So he passed away several years ago, but he passed away a Christian and repentant of his work in the abortion industry. He was an amazing man, but he wrote several books. One of the books that he wrote was called Hand of God. And it was the first book I read, actually, when I left the abortion industry. Very powerful book. And he said in the book, he said, we knew, he was talking about when he was founding NARAL. He said, we knew that abortion would take off like wildfire if the Christian church would just remain silent. I would say with 1 million abortions taking place in the United States every year, and almost 60% of those women claiming to be Christian, I would say abortion has taken off like wildfire.
Wow.
And our churches are silent because they don't want to offend, because they don't want to make people uncomfortable. And I say to these pastors all the time, it's a sad day when the Christian church is more concerned about offending their congregation than they are about offending the heart of God.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's where we are. And woe to them.
Wow.
Because
So, yeah.
our pastors have a specific duty, and they are put in leadership for a reason, and they will be held to a higher standard when they stand in front of Jesus Christ.
Wow.
And they have a responsibility to lead their flock. And you know, I always say I don't believe that Jesus is as concerned about our happiness as he is about our holiness.
Yeah.
And we have church members who are hearing a fluffy gospel every week, and they're not hearing the real gospel every week. And that has to change.
Yeah, you know, with so much of that being very tamed in messages that you hear, and sometimes you hear across the church that are Christians that are pro-choice. What do you say to a Christian who says, "I'm pro-choice"?
I would say that they are not in line with what Scripture teaches.
Yeah.
I would ask why. I would ask some questions, because usually Christians who are pro-choice, there's usually a story there.
Helpful.
And they may be a person who themselves has had an abortion and is in need of healing. And so there's usually a story, there's usually some pain behind that belief. And so I would ask some questions. I would want to hear that story, and I would want to get them in contact with a healing ministry, some healing resources. But I wouldn't shy away from telling them that they are out of step with what Christ says about the unborn in his word.
Abby, thank you. So typically we wrap up our calls where you get to speak directly to our people who have not been involved at all, Christians that don't even vote. I'm going to change it a little bit. Would you speak directly to our watchers that maybe have had an abortion and this is skewing their perspective? Can you speak directly to them?
You know, if you are a person who has been affected by an abortion in any way, I want you to know that there's hope. There is healing. I don't speak today from a place of judgment at all. I mean, how could I? I've had 2 abortions myself. I have participated in 22,000 abortions. But I come to you today with a message of hope and of mercy and of freedom, and that's what I want you to be able to experience. You know, people say, you know, Abby, how do you learn to forgive yourself? Because knowing that God forgives you is sort of easy, right? Because he's God and that's what he does. And everybody grows up knowing that God can forgive you. But how do you forgive yourself? And I tell people that it took practice. And that's sort of a weird answer, but it took practice. Every day I woke up and I had to make a conscious decision. Was I going to live in the past, live in this place that I couldn't change? You can't change your past. Was I going to live in this past that I couldn't change, that I couldn't control, and that Satan definitely wanted me to live in?
Yeah.
Or was I going to live in the present, in this gift that God had given me, in this place where I could use my past to glorify him? And some days, if I'm honest with you, I chose to live in my past, and I wallowed around in my sin, and I drank more wine than I should have. And it was just a sad day, and I threw a pity party for myself. But most days I woke up and I chose to live in the gift that he had given me. I chose to live in the present. And then one day I realized that I wasn't even having to make the choice anymore, that it just came naturally to me, that I wanted to live for him every single day. And that's what can happen for you too. And once you make that choice, it's like the bondage is lifted. You are set free from that. And so I would advise you to start making that choice every morning. I would advise you to speak to someone who you trust about your abortion, because whatever you speak, whatever you bring to light, Satan no longer has control of.
Wow,
and
that's
so
a great
I would
truth.
encourage you to speak to someone that you trust about it, and to find a post-abortion, an abortion recovery Bible group, a recovery group. And you can find those online. You can find them at a pregnancy resource center. But there is hope and there is freedom, and you can find it.
Oh, Abby Johnson,
Well,
thank you so much. There's so much important work that people are doing, but in my heart, this is the most important. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much.
Visit millionvoices.org today for more resources. We will be posting more videos just like this one from thought leaders across the nation. Each of the videos connects to one of our 10 guiding truths. Today, we talked about life.
Please go to millionvoices.org and click on Guiding Truths and get more content that matters to you. Also, remember to like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Share these video links with your friends and your family. And remember, your voice matters.